Welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. If you enjoy our content, please consider donating and following our socials. Alright, so I was looking on Reddit and I saw this one post where they were talking about how this one person feels that the pagan community is splitting into two directions.
Yes.
One is all about signs and omens, and as they put it, spiritual psychosis.
Yes.
Where if you're not seeing visions, if you're not getting those signs and omens from the gods, then you're doing this wrong.
If you're not being smacked around on the gods on a minute-by-minute basis, you're not doing this right.
Right. The other one, basically, is...
those of us who maybe want a more deeper connection
Right.
to all of this is kind of...
Right, more grounded in reality, more realistic about our expectations and our practices.
Right. There does seem to be this set of the community. They have these lofty ideas. Mm-hmm. You know, again, you do a spell right quick and suddenly all your trauma's gone, or...
Right, that's in the first group.
Yeah, that's the first group, and where the second group's more like, okay, no, your trauma's just not healed. You sort of got to go tromping through it and deal with it and
right,
clean the sore out, I guess.
Right.
So what started this? Well, again, we've always had the fluffy bunnies.
I think it's it's a pattern. It comes and goes, and
I mean, this is not something new. These people have always existed.
Yeah.
In the pagan community.
Right. So I don't think it's actually anything that's recent. You know, it's not, oh, all of a sudden we're splitting in two directions. It's kind of always been this way.
It's always been this way, but I think the side that which we refer to as the fluffy bunnies. Mm-hmm. I'm just being honest, all right? Yeah. It seems to be, I have to admit, over the years, seem to be becoming more and more prominent.
Well, yeah.
You know, everything they do, yes, is a sign from Hecate. And this, I'm so important that everything through my life is, which is kind of weird because I walk through my life, yes, I see where the gods have interfered or have touched nature. Or, do you see what I'm saying? I can see the divine and stuff, but it doesn't make me want to everything and go, oh no, I got to reanalyze this spot on a tree.
Right.
I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I don't think everything is divine intervention. I think signs and omens and things like that do hold their place.
Well, I think you can get wrapped up into the signs and omens a little too much sometimes.
It's easy to do. Back in high school, perfect example of this, right? Back in high school, I was part of a group and we called it Madrigal Singers.
Right.
And we did a madrigal play for the Christmas season. And madrigal is just, it's medieval, it's Renaissance, it's that type of atmosphere, right? So we had a king and we had a queen and we had a royal court and then we had jesters and servants and all this other
y'all
stuff.
Did the whole pomp and circumstance.
Yes, we did.
It was fun.
And yes, we had a pig that we paraded around for everybody while we sang the Boar's Head song.
Right.
But part of our presentation was periodically we were allowed to go around to people's tables and blow out their candle and say, oh no, the spirits are here. Right?
Right.
And there was one night in particular that we were doing this, and yeah, we had a lot of spirits.
Yeah.
Because people got wrapped up into walking up and blowing people's candles out.
Right.
Right. It just got a little out of control. Same thing. It's just easy to get wrapped up into that spiritual side of things.
Right. I mean, and when we're sitting here and we're talking about the fluffy bunnies, we're literally talking about these people that they're that toxic positivity. Everything is a good omen. Everything is, I mean,
well, it's not always good, but yeah, there is that toxic positivity
there that does happen in this. Is that everything's just too good, too sunshine, and life's not that way. I mean, most people I know, most most people who follow craft, the idea behind this is that we all must walk through the darkness before we can enjoy the light.
Right.
You know, that we have to go through hard times to have the good times.
Right.
All right, to have the good times, we got to go through the hard times. Not acknowledging that cycle, to me, is a little bit of a problem. You know, I'm just saying, just staying just on the sunny side. I'm sorry, plants need rest and all this other stuff. So what are we doing here? I mean, is the world really that positive? And
no, I don't think so. I mean, if talking about plants, when you're trying to relate it to that, plants need a certain amount of stress.
Yes.
To
grow,
to grow and to produce strong roots, right? But they do need that time of rest. They need that time where they're not being stressed out. They need to recover. They need to recuperate. And again, that's all part of what makes them stronger.
Right.
Same thing with people.
Well, again, you work out, you go and you stress your muscles trying to break them down so your body can rebuild them.
Exactly.
Again, and if we believe in cycles in craft, right? This is nothing more than another cycle. So yes, part of this is these people want to ignore this part and just think it's the eternal summerlands all the time.
Right.
So again, why is it that people want to avoid strife like this when it's actually good for us? I know at the time when you're going through it and all that, it's horrible and it's emotional and the whole 9 yards, but afterwards you're better off.
I think people are forgetting how to handle strife and struggle and things like that. And I don't know why.
Well, it's kind of like we're living in a society where there's a group of us who don't want to feel any bad emotions whatsoever at any given time.
Right.
That seem to have it in your head that you're never supposed to be depressed.
Right. That it's all supposed to be sunshine and
lollipops from the time you wake up to the time you go back to bed.
Right. I don't think that's realistic. I mean you can't.
From the time I get up, me personally, from the time I get up from bed to the time I go back down, I have probably gone through more emotions that day.
Probably, yeah.
All right, from road rage to aggravation to just watching the news, going even doing the whole entire Sunday football chair guy yelling at the TV.
Yeah.
Why would I not want to experience all these emotions, even the bad ones?
I don't know. I mean, again, that's part of the human experience.
Well, that's part of life.
If you can't...
I mean, I've said for years that the greatest gifts the gods ever gave to us was our emotions.
Right.
That's where we gain power from.
I believe that, yeah.
And strength. You know, being angry can be helpful.
Sure it can.
All right? I mean, being angry changes the world many times.
This is true.
That's like love. How many wars were caused over love?
Too many.
I mean, we're not even talking about the, what is that, the Troy?
Yeah. Helen of Troy.
Yeah. Stuff, where there was a war.
Right.
So I don't understand why we have a section of the population who just wants to ignore the other half.
I mean, it's the whole yin and yang thing. You can't have one without the other.
But yet these same people still hear these stories about like the story of the two wolves inside everyone.
Right.
One's aggressive, one's not. The yin, the yang.
Right, which is a pretty popular story.
All right. But yet again, when you actually go out and listen to these people and stuff like that, they're not doing this.
No, they're not. And I don't get it.
And I think that's where the big divide is here. I know we call them fluffy air bunnies, and it also means they're not. They're surface level people only. It's like they only read just the first few chapters of a book or something, and they just barely grasp on.
Do you think it's part of the whole do as I say, not as I do?
No, I think I'm like you. I think part of this has to do with social media and everybody being so positive, you put out something and everybody's too busy patting you on your back, then they'll look at you and go, well, that's not exactly right. That's not exactly how everybody sees that theory.
Right.
Instead, they put out the theories and all they get are comments back going, oh, we love you. You're so stunning and brave and blah, blah, blah. We didn't actually listen to what in the world you said. You're just there and saying some of the positive things we like. So
Right.
we're not going to dig up any deeper or look or ask extra questions.
Right.
You know, you made me feel good.
It does kind of make you wonder. I mean, when did social media become the pat on the back that it has?
Well, it seems like it's one of the two. Either you're getting pats on your back, no matter what in the world you said, or you got a bunch of people just sitting there telling you you're an idiot.
Right.
I've never sat there, and there's very few times I've ever sat there besides on certain websites where it's like, okay, context. Mm-hmm. This makes no sense to me, or some. Very few of those.
Well, again, it's the two extremes.
Yes.
I mean, you've got on one end, you've got, like we discussed earlier, just a few minutes ago, you got the spiritual psychosis people where everything's a sign, everything's an omen, everything's,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other side of that. Well, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's either toxic positivity or it's toxic negativity.
All right. Again, we seem to be losing our balance between these two.
We do.
All right. And I don't understand why. Why in the world everybody just wants to mainly go to an extreme?
I don't know. I've always believed that this path is about that balance.
Right.
It's people on one side of the creek believe one way, people on the other side of the creek believe another way.
And it is our
if you
job.
Stand in the middle.
It is our job to stand in the middle of that creek going, listen to this side, listen to that side, and giving our advice.
Right. That's what this whole path is about. It's
right.
It's coming to that where not only do you see the balance, but you are the balance.
Right. But the bulk of the people who, again, in the community at large, don't seem to do that. I don't understand where we've lost this whole entire balance thing.
Like, I don't know. I don't know when it happened. I don't know why it happened.
Well, and to make it even worse is, and you go to talk to these people, right? Mm-hmm. And oh no, we're balanced. How?
But you're not.
But you're not. And how is that balanced? Oh, because I'm happy all the time.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, you can't have happiness without having sadness.
Right. How do you know what happiness is if you've never been sad?
Right.
I'm sorry, again, just like I said earlier, there's at least some part during the day, yes, I feel a little sad or maybe even a little depressed.
Yeah.
Because it's something I've seen on TV that makes me think about a bad thing.
Right.
But it's not like I'm sitting there, oh, now my whole entire day's ruined. Mm-hmm. How many times have you gone into work not feeling good, but yet once you got there moving around and stuff, that sick feeling just sort of went away?
Yeah. And then when I leave work, it kind of comes back a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it happens.
It happens.
I think there's a serious problem that needs to be dealt with, and I don't know how to deal with it.
Because, again, if you go on TikTok or any of these places and you start going, well, wait a minute, these people just suddenly blow up.
Yeah.
All over the place. And I think there's part of the problem with not having that balance. That when they do get questioned about it and everything, and they really do lose it, it's because they haven't been dealing with them other emotions and they're getting slammed with it all of a sudden. I've seen them do that too.
Yep, it happens like a tidal wave.
It does. It's kind of like, okay, you've kept all them bad emotions down, and I'm going to go over there and just poke that dike just a little bit more.
Right.
And then when it breaks, they lose it. But yet I've seen witches and people we know in crap. You can sit there and do that to them all day, and they'd not even move.
Right.
Might not even recognize your existence.
Might not. I mean, it has happened. But again, I don't know how we deal with this. I don't know.
We're not sitting here telling these people you can't believe the way you are. It's just I'm asking questions. How do y'all deal with? Because again, I don't see them dealing with these things, and
No,
so it is confusing to me.
it is to me too.
So I think we need more coffee.
I think so. So here's a question for you.
All right.
Do we need an altar to communicate with deities?
No. Short
Why
enough
not?
conversation for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, why not?
It bothers me more that people have the idea that you are required to have something to connect with the gods than the actual item itself. Did I say that right?
I think so.
The thought that you need anything to offer a prayer or to communicate with the God, it just bothers me.
I mean, are there things that can help you get into that space? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Music, incense, being down by a brook, a stream or whatever.
Well, every morning I get up, I say prayers to my gods, right? I hold a piece of incense and pray and light it.
Right.
That's just what I do
Yeah.
to help me focus. I don't need the incense to do the prayer.
No.
There's where in the world I think we need to talk about. Why do people think you have to have these things?
Why are we so reliant on our tools?
Right. I mean, but I hate to be this way. It's not even in ours. I mean, you got Catholics with the whole lighting the candles and because I've worked jobs where, okay, the lotto went up and all the Catholic people were like, oh, no, I got to go to church and light a candle.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, how's that not witchcraft?
Well, I think those candles are for different purposes. But anyway, yeah, I mean,
but again, it's the thing. It's the same thought. You're required to have to use this candle to get.
I think it's important for a lot of people because it does help them get into that spiritual frame of mind. That's that headspace.
But I'm not saying they couldn't be used as triggers to help us.
Right, but I'm just saying I think it's where it's easy to become reliant on that.
Uh-huh.
Instead of taking time to try to work without them to get, to be able to get into that headspace, into that frame of mind without those tools, without those accoutrements, if you will.
This is along the same lines of what I hear about the shamans in South America.
Mm-hmm.
They all sit there and go, hey, when we were younger, yes, our teachers gave us drugs to cause us to go into this headspace.
Right.
But over time, they took the drugs away from us and said, now you know what it's like. You got to get there without.
Well, and see, I think that's part of the problem is we don't have a lot of teachers.
No.
And then and you've got the solitary practitioners. And again, nothing wrong with being a solitary practitioner, but you're learning on your own.
Yeah.
And it's easy to become reliant on your tools and your extra things that you're doing.
Right.
Whereas if you have a teacher, you've got somebody who can kind of help you walk through that and get beyond the tools.
Right. Because you're more looking at what the tool represents.
Right.
Versus what the tool actually is.
Right.
I hope that made sense for people.
I hope it did too.
Because that, to me, is what's the more important part. The reason behind the tool, that you realize you are using it as a trigger to put you in the mood to sit down and pray, to sit down and meditate.
Right. I think in this case, it could easily be said, it's not the journey at that point, it's the destination.
Well,
the journey representing the tools.
Right. To some extent, yeah.
It's a bad analogy, I know.
Well,
but
it's the best I see it a little bit better the other way around. All right.
You think the tools are the destination?
I think the idea is that we think of it as the tools as a car, and you're using it to go on a journey. Does it really matter if you're in a Corvette or just some old Rambler?
Okay, better.
Either way, either tool's going to get you there.
Better analogy. I like that, yeah.
All right. So there's the way I'm looking at this. And again, that's the way I think we need to look at these things, but we're not. People are using them as barriers not to worship, not to do things. Oh, I don't have an anthem, so I can't worship. I don't have an altar, so I can't worship. I'm sorry, I remember us doing a whole entire full moon ritual where we literally removed the altar. The ritual was to remove the altar from ritual space.
Yes.
To show that we don't need it.
But I don't think that that's necessarily the case, that people are using it as an excuse not to do something. I think for a lot of people, and again, it goes back to they're doing stuff on their own, so they don't really know.
I mean, they're asking, again, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
No.
At least somebody asked it, but to a certain extent, you should have been able to figure this out logically, I guess. Do I really need an altar? Does the altar really make a difference? Isn't it that person? Because again, you listen to the books, you read everything, and we all sit here and say it's about a personal connection.
Right.
I don't know any religion that does not sit there and tell you that.
Right, but all the books and stuff tell you need an altar, you need these tools, you need an athame, you need, you need your candles, you need your incense. All the books tell you this is what you need to practice.
Again, this is how we perform. Again, we're on the religious side of this. This is what we need to perform our rituals and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, no, we don't.
No.
All right? At the end of the day, it's that whole entire question, if I take all your books and I take all your tools, are you still a witch? Mm-hmm. If you're a Christian and I take your Bible away and all your churches and your community, are you still a Christian?
Right.
If you ask the majority of them, they're going to say yes. Mm-hmm. You take all my stuff away, I'm still a witch.
Right.
And then that will never change because it's inside me. It's not the tool.
Right.
Yes, the tools are nice. And again, when you're performing ritual, they're there, they help out, they do certain things, but they're just tools. Mm-hmm. They're not a means to the end.
No.
And it bothers me that there are people out there who seem to think that they are required to have these items.
Well, again, I'm back to everything that we read. I mean, even in more modern day books, it's all, you need this, you need that. There's nothing beyond that. There's nothing that says in any of this literature, there's nothing that says what we just said. You don't need all of this stuff. No. You don't need any of it.
Well, think about the argument. Think about the argument over ropes. Mm-hmm. Skyclad or ropes. Mm-hmm. The fact is, both are valid.
Sure,
nobody has said anything. So when I first came up and I was doing my own solitary thing, I did my rituals in silk boxers.
Okay.
I know there are people in the pagan community that would sit there and look at me going, "You did what?"
Well,
and it's my ritual and my personal space. So
right. What does it matter?
What does it matter?
And again, it's whatever you have. If you feel you want to wear something and it's your personal ritual, just wear it.
Well, yeah.
Or don't.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry. I am a guy, and at the time, going around waving a knife out with everything hanging out just did not seem like a good idea. But even then, I still understood to a certain extent that this wasn't necessary because I saw the contradiction in the two. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't think everybody not everybody can put that connection together. Right.
Where in the world you go from robes to, a robe's just a tool. So again, we're starting to what tools? Because in some traditions, mm-hmm. All right, like in our traditions, we hold the anthem very sacredly for certain reasons. Mm-hmm. All right, traditional religion for us. But in other ones, it's the one instead.
Absolutely, yeah.
And again, nothing wrong with this. Mm-hmm. So what is the problem? Why do we have to put so much emphasis on all of this stuff that we have to need it?
That we have to have certain tools?
Right.
the only thing I can keep coming back to is what I've already stated, is that in all the books and everything that we're reading, that's what it says, and people are taking it for what it's worth. And
are they missing the parts where I read where in the world they keep on referring to these as triggers and every so often and vaguely? Because I saw those in those books. I've read those words. I remember reading those when they talked about tools. Matter of fact, I think it's in the Big Blue Book.
Oh, my Lord. It's been years since I've read that. I don't...
See, for some reason, I have that vague mention that in these books, they kept on referring to these.
I'd have to go back because, honestly, in most of the books that I read, it just seemed like this is what you need.
Right.
And there was no, this is a trigger.
Again, the way they always wrote it was kind of like at the beginning, then there was like 2 chapters on all the different tools and what they mean and blah, blah, blah. So I think the problem is that you get so overwhelmed with the meanings and the purposes of the tools, you forget the first part where we go, okay.
You're just skipping over it.
Or you're just skipping over it altogether.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. But I really think that if at all possible, and this is not promoting coven work at all, it's find you a mentor. Find you
somebody.
Find somebody who's got a little more experience than you. And get them to help you work through things. Get them to help you work.
And we're talking about somebody...
especially if you can't figure it out on your own.
Well, I'm talking about if you're going to do that, make sure it's somebody you actually get to know, and it's just not a bunch of 50 different random strangers out on the net.
Absolutely not, no. You want to be able to trust this person.
Yeah, you want someone you can build a relationship with and have some confidence in what they're saying. And because, again, you go out on Reddit and all these other... Mm-hmm. You're going to get some weird answers.
I'm sure you are.
And you're going to get some answers that contradict one another. But as far as I'm concerned, my whole entire practice, no, the tools are not required to do anything.
No, they're not.
I'm not even going to sit here and say that you need anything to cast a spell other than yourself.
Right.
I'll even go that far. You don't need crystals. You don't need jack shit.
No. You don't need incense. You don't need fire. You don't need candles. You don't need coins.
All you need is the breath in your lungs.
Right. I mean, really, that's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
You need that, and you need the emotion to put behind it.
That's it. And ritual is no different besides where we're aiming that energy.
Right.
So, if you believe that you need something to connect, to pray, to meditate, to commune with, you don't.
Well, and I'll say this to that extent. You may need it at this time to help you get to that space. But just realize there is more beyond that.
Well, again,
and you can work without them.
Well, it's like we've talked about with meditation. You do meditation long enough.
Absolutely.
You don't have to go through all that rigmarole,
yeah,
to get yourself into a certain headspace. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do those, colors, counting, or any of those.
Or whatever it is to get you.
Whatever it takes to get to your safe space or to your spot where you're in your own head. Mm-hmm. You do it long enough, and it's sort of like, I sit down to meditate, and I think it takes me like 2 minutes to get into the... And that's me in the middle of freaking yoga, and
I was gonna say if that. I mean,
I'm standing in the middle of a yoga class with like 20 other people, meditating, quite happily. Mm-hmm. And trust me, they're noisy.
Yeah.
But again, with practice, with time, it becomes that easy.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else.
I'm going to sit here and say, yes, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I know everybody. I know there's at least 50 people that just rolled their eyes, going, "Yeah."
Probably, yeah.
But it's true. So, you ready for some more coffee?
Yep. Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another episode. Pagan Coffee Talk is brought to you by Life Temple and Seminary. Please visit us at lifetempleseminary.org for more information, as well as links to our social media: Facebook, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
We travel down this trodden path, a maze of stone and mire. Just hold my hand as we pass by a sea of blazing pyres. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks.